Rain didn't just fall in Birmingham that night, it poured with a vengeance, like the sky had decided the city needed a proper wash after too many years of grime and compromise. The Aston Vale Motors forecourt became a shallow lake under the relentless drumming, security floodlights smearing into pale, trembling halos that turned every puddle into a mirror of white noise. Elliot Carter stepped out of the night shift door at 21:58, thermos in one hand, multi-tool clipped to his belt like a talisman. His high-vis was already heavy with water from the long walk across the staff car park, cracked asphalt, weeds pushing through, the distant rumble of the M6 never quite stopping. He was 36 but felt older most days, the kind of tired that settles in the bones and stays. Single dad. Graveyard shift maintenance technician. Former mechanical engineer who once dreamed of designing cars that saved lives instead of just moving people from A to B. He paused under the overhang, watching the rain bounce off the prototypes parked in their cordon zone. Yellow tape fluttering like crime scene borders. CCTV domes glistening like wet eyes. VIP motors. Untouchable. Touch one without clearance and you were history. 3 sackings last year proved it. Then he saw it. One of the Aston Vale V prototypes. Sleek black saloon, low and predatory, sat dead center in the deepest puddle, water lapping halfway up the alloy wheels. Dashboard lights inside flickered weakly, like a dying heartbeat. A woman sat behind the wheel. Perfectly still. Not panicking. Just waiting. Ronnie Blake, security, stood 20 meters away under his own umbrella, arms folded, face lit sickly green by the emergency exit sign. He caught Elliot's eye and shook his head once. Firm. That's restricted, Elliot. You know the rules. Elliot crouched, rain running inside his collar like cold fingers. Water's in the electrics, he said quietly. Relays probably bridged. Could short and fry the battery pack. Or worse, fire. Ronnie shifted weight. 3 kids at home. Wife working part-time at Tesco. Mortgage that never slept. He looked at the car, then at Elliot, then back at the car. Shook his head again. Stepped further under cover. Elliot didn't hesitate long. He knelt in the puddle, water instantly soaking his knees, and popped the access panel under the driver's door with the flat of his multi-tool. Torch beam cut through the rain. The relay housing was cracked open like an eggshell. Not impact damage. Brittle. Wrong material entirely, cheap polycarbonate instead of the rated industrial stuff. Moisture had bridged the contacts. System had shorted itself trying to maintain voltage across a broken circuit. He felt a small flare of anger. This wasn't wear and tear. This was substitution. Sabotage? Maybe. But right now, the car was a potential bomb on wheels and someone was inside it. From his belt pouch he pulled a spare plastic insulation sleeve, the kind used for emergency cable repairs. Wrapped the cracked housing tight. Then, with steady hands, he bypassed the failed relay entirely, rerouting power through the redundant circuit the original design team had sensibly built in as a failsafe. Not pretty. Not permanent. But it would hold long enough to get the car into a dry bay. He closed the panel. Stood. Rain streamed off his face like tears he hadn't allowed himself in years. Inside the car, the woman lifted her head. Met his eyes through the streaked windscreen. No wave. No mouthed thank you. Just a long, cool, assessing stare, the kind that says asterisk I've seen you now. And I won't forget asterisk. Then the engine caught properly. Dash lights steadied. Locks disengaged with a soft clunk. Tail lights bloomed red. She pulled away smoothly, vanishing into the curtain of rain. Elliot stood alone in the downpour, holding the small flaked fragment of wrong material housing that had fallen loose during the repair. He turned it over in his fingers. Wrong size stamp. Wrong texture. Aftermarket. Cheap. Deliberately fitted. He pocketed it. Walked back toward the maintenance shed, boots squelching. Radio crackled on his shoulder. Carter. Security office. Immediate. The office was small, windowless, lit by tubes that flickered like they were on their last legs. Clive Harrington waited inside, COO, 10 years older than Vivienne Ashford, smile that never touched his eyes. Bernice Lyle from HR sat with a manila folder and a face like she'd rather be anywhere else. Ronnie stood in the corner, staring at his boots. Clive spoke first, voice smooth as new leather. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" "Prevented a potential fire hazard," Elliot said. Flat. "No apology. You accessed a restricted prototype without authorization. Violated every safety protocol we have. Exposed the company to catastrophic liability. There was a person inside the vehicle. That is irrelevant." Clive's smile tightened. "Your job is to follow procedure. Not play hero." He nodded at Bernice. She slid a single sheet across the table. Voluntary resignation form. Pre-filled. Elliot didn't touch it. Clive leaned forward slightly. "Sign it. Make this easy for everyone." "I'm not signing anything." Clive's expression didn't change much, but the air in the room grew colder. "Then we terminate you for gross misconduct. Either way, you're finished here." Bernice cleared her throat. Elliot looked at Ronnie, who still wouldn't meet his eyes. Looked at Clive, who looked back like a man who'd already won the game before it started. Elliot reached into his pocket, pulled out his access card, placed it carefully on the table with a soft click. Turned. Walked out into the rain. The flat on the east side was quiet when he let himself in just after 4. Matilda was asleep in the tiny back bedroom, curled tight under the hand-sewn blanket Natalie had made during her last good month, navy blue with silver stars and crescent moons. Elliot stood in the doorway a long time, watching the gentle rise and fall of her breathing, the dark hair spilled across the pillow like her mother's. He'd done the right thing tonight. He was certain of it. Stopped a fire. Maybe saved a life. But certainty didn't pay the rent. Didn't cover the next inhaler prescription for Matilda's asthma. Didn't keep the Lexi on or the water running or the broadband connected so she could do her homework without being embarrassed at school. He sat at the small kitchen table under the single bulb. Opened his banking app. Balance, £743.17. Rent due in 12 days, £1,200. Inhaler repeat, £138 without NHS cover kicking in yet. School meals arrears, £32. Council tax reminder. Water bill. Broadband for Matilda's online reading scheme. He added the numbers 3 times. Got the same answer each time. 3 weeks, maybe 4, before the money ran dry. 5 before the eviction notice. In the living room he pulled the old cardboard box from under the sofa. Engineering certificates. Degree parchment from Aston Uni. Published papers on brake redundancy. Letters of commendation. The framed photo from the Manchester Safety Conference 8 years ago, him in a suit he'd bought from the charity shop, Natalie beside him in the green dress she loved, smiling so wide it hurt to look at now. She used to tease him endlessly about his seriousness. "You're explaining coefficient of friction to a room full of men in Armani who just want to know if the bloody thing stops," she'd say, laughing. "And you love every second of it." He closed the box. Lid shut with a soft thud. Opened his ancient laptop instead. Job sites. Warehouse operative. Night security at a distribution center. Facilities maintenance anywhere that paid weekly and offered benefits. Every single application asked the same killer question. Reason for leaving last position? He typed variations. Terminated. Role ended. Company restructuring. Watched each one turn his CV from possibility into red flag. 17 applications sent by the time the sky began to lighten. He expected 0 replies. Matilda woke at 6:32, padding into the kitchen in mismatched pajamas. Found him still at the table, certificates spread out like a losing hand of cards. She climbed onto the chair beside him without a word, reached into the hallway, and handed him the dry towel she always left by the front door every night. "You're wet, Dad. Forgot to dry off. Are you going to work today?" He folded the towel slowly. Set it aside. "No, love. Day off." Her face lit up. "Good. Then you can take me to school." She smiled, pure, trusting, devastating. He smiled back. The lie sat between them like a stone in his chest. Across the city, in the glass penthouse overlooking the Brindley Place canals, Vivienne Ashford sat at her desk reading the incident report Clive had filed at 3:47. Careful language. Unauthorized access to restricted prototype by maintenance operative. Situation contained. Personnel action taken. No mention of electrical failure. No mention of a woman trapped inside. No mention of the car coming back to life. She picked up the internal phone. Rang security control. Who was physically present in prototype vehicle 7V last night? Long pause. I don't have that information, Ms. Ashford. Find it. She hung up. Pulled Elliot Carter's personnel file. Hired 8 years ago as junior mechanical engineer. Multiple commendations for innovative problem solving. Extended unpaid leave after wife's terminal illness. Demoted to night maintenance 3 years ago. No disciplinary record. Terminated 2:15 this morning for unauthorized access. Paperwork processed before dawn. File already archived and sealed. Too fast. Too clean. Vivienne opened her desk drawer. Removed the small digital recorder she'd secretly installed in prototype 7V 2 weeks earlier. She'd suspected sabotage for months, small, deniable failures that only appeared in wet conditions. She'd wanted proof. Plugged it into her laptop. Hit play. Rain on metal. Static. Then voices, clear despite the weather. Elliot explaining the fault in calm, precise terms. Ronnie warning him off. Tools clinking. Water dripping. Engine turning over, catching, settling into a healthy purr. Timestamp irrefutable. The failure had happened on its own. Elliot had fixed it. Clive had buried it. Vivienne leaned back in her chair. Stared at the rain-streaked window. If Clive was willing to sack a competent, grieving father to cover up a flaw, or worse, to engineer one, then the problem wasn't one car. It was systemic. And if she moved against him without ironclad, public proof, he would destroy the evidence, spin the narrative, and pin the chaos on her. She needed Elliot Carter. Needed him angry enough. Desperate enough. Honest enough. To fight. The knock came at 13:20 the next afternoon. Elliot was on the sofa, laptop balanced on his knees, refreshing job sites that had already ghosted him. Matilda was at school. He opened the door. Vivienne Ashford stood in the hallway. Charcoal suit, black umbrella dripping onto the communal carpet, hair pulled back tight. Expression unreadable. Elliot Carter? Yes. Vivienne Ashford. Matilda appeared behind him, school bag still on, eyes wide. Are you the lady who got stuck in the car? Vivienne looked down at the child, then back at Elliot. A flicker, something almost soft, crossed her face. May I come in? They sat at the tiny kitchen table. Matilda, without being asked, went to the hallway cupboard, pulled out a fresh towel, and placed it carefully in front of Vivienne. Same ritual she performed for her dad every night. Vivienne took it. Surprised. Set it neatly beside her bag. Elliot leaned against the counter. Arms crossed. Waiting. You saved my life last night. I did my job. And you were sacked for it. Yes. Vivienne reached into her bag. Pulled out the small fragment of relay housing Elliot had pocketed. Set it on the table between them. You kept this. Why? Because it doesn't belong in that car. Someone replaced a factory-certified part with cheap aftermarket rubbish. That's not an accident. No, Vivienne said quietly. It isn't. She folded her hands. The Aston Vale V has a vulnerability in the electrical architecture, water ingress under extreme conditions. We knew that. We were addressing it. But what happened last night was not a design flaw. It was deliberate sabotage. Someone is engineering failures to make the launch catastrophic. To destroy confidence. To destroy me. Clive Harrington. I believe so. I cannot yet prove it beyond doubt. She looked at him directly, sharp, unflinching. I need your help, Elliot. 48 hours. You examine the remaining prototypes. Document every anomaly, every swapped component, every discrepancy. You testify under oath if necessary, before the board. In return, I pay you as an independent consultant at senior engineer rates, and I clear your record completely. Elliot shook his head slowly. I've got a daughter. I can't afford to make powerful enemies. You already have one. Clive will make sure no one in this industry touches you again. Unless you fight back. Matilda, who had been listening quietly from the doorway, stepped forward and tugged her dad's sleeve. Dad, she said seriously. You should help her. Bad people shouldn't win. Vivienne's mouth curved, a small, brief, genuine smile. The first real one Elliot had seen from her. He looked at his daughter. At the woman sitting at his table. At the red rent notice on the counter. Thought about the right thing to do. The safe thing to do. Realized. Not for the first time, that the two had parted ways a long time ago. 48 hours, he said. The test shed smelled of oil, hot electronics, and wet metal. 3 Aston Vale V prototypes sat under harsh fluorescence, bonnets up, innards exposed like patients on operating tables. Elliot worked methodically. Compared factory blueprints to what he saw in front of him. Insulated relay covers that should have been sealed, loose or missing entirely. Junction boxes with screws not torqued to spec. Wiring insulation nicked in places that looked accidental but weren't. Serial numbers on critical components that didn't match maintenance logs. Installation dates faked. He photographed everything, close-ups, wide shots, timestamps, serials. By noon he had a gallery of deliberate, systematic weakening. Not shoddy workmanship. Sabotage designed to fail spectacularly, but only after vehicles reached customers. He found Vivienne in her office, standing at the floor-to-ceiling window watching the rain. She turned when he entered. He handed her the camera without a word. She scrolled through the images. Her face grew colder with each one. It's worse than I thought, Elliot said. All 3 prototypes are compromised. If even one had launched as is, people would have died. Multiple crashes. Fires. Headlines for months. Vivienne set the camera down carefully. Clive has been pushing for an accelerated launch. Wants the V on the roads before the next board meeting. If it succeeds, massive promotion, board seat. If it fails spectacularly after launch, I take the fall. He takes my chair. We stop him publicly, Elliot said. In front of the board. If we accuse without absolute proof, he buries us both. Then we get absolute proof. She picked up her phone. Ronnie. Vivienne Ashford. My office. Now. Ronnie arrived 23 minutes later, still in uniform, looking like a man walking to his own funeral. Vivienne gestured to the chair. Saturday. You were on duty the night Elliot was sacked. Yes, Tell me exactly what happened. Ronnie swallowed hard. I was told not to let anyone near the prototypes. When Mr. Carter approached the vehicle, I warned him. He said there was an immediate safety risk. He fixed it anyway. Then Mr. Harrington called me into his office later. Made me sign a statement saying Mr. Carter had violated protocol. Said if I didn't sign, I'd be terminated for failing to prevent the breach. Did you see anyone else in the restricted area that night? Ronnie looked at his hands. Voice dropped. Yes, About an hour before Mr. Carter arrived. Someone was under one of the prototypes with a tool bag. I assumed they had authorization. Didn't challenge them. Who was it? I don't know. The cameras were down. Offline for 3 weeks. Mr. Harrington said it was scheduled maintenance. Elliot felt the final pieces slot into place. Disabled CCTV. Unauthorized night access. Components swapped under the guise of routine checks. Clive hadn't just sabotaged cars. He'd engineered a perfect cover system. Vivienne leaned forward. You will testify at the board meeting, Ronnie. You will tell them everything you just told me. Ronnie paled. If I do that, I'll lose my job. My family. If you don't, someone will lose their life. Possibly many lives. What matters more? Ronnie looked at Elliot, a man who'd risked everything on a stranger's safety. Then back at Vivienne. Took a long, shaky breath. Okay. The boardroom occupied the entire top floor, glass walls on 3 sides, panoramic view of a rain-washed Birmingham. Long mahogany table. Expensive suits. Men and women who moved markets with a signature. Clive Harrington sat at one end, confident, tie perfectly knotted. Vivienne at the other, laptop open, face calm as stone. Elliot stood near the door beside Ronnie, both acutely aware they were the wrong people in the wrong room. Gerald Thornton, chairman, 72, 4 decades in the motor industry, called order with a single tap of his pen. We are here to discuss the proposed acceleration of the Aston Vale V launch schedule. Mr. Harrington, you requested this emergency meeting. Present your case. Clive stood. Buttoned his jacket. Smiled at the room like he owned it. Thank you, Chairman. The Aston Vale V represents the future of this company and the future of mobility. We have invested £87 million in development. We have pre-orders from dealerships across 32 territories. Our competitors are 6 months behind. If we launch now, we own the market. If we delay, we lose everything. He clicked through slides, sales projections climbing like rockets, market analysis charts, customer testimonials glowing on screen. Every day we wait costs us £200,000 in opportunity. I propose we move the launch forward by 1 week. Murmurs of approval around the table. Heads nodding. Logic appeared sound. Gerald turned to Vivienne. Ms. Ashford. Your thoughts? Vivienne stood slowly. She did not smile. The Aston Vale V is not ready for launch. It has a critical safety flaw in the electrical system. And the man responsible for concealing and actively exacerbating that flaw is sitting at this table. Silence fell like a guillotine. Clive's smile held, but only just. That is a very serious accusation, Vivienne. It is a very serious crime, Clive. She opened her laptop. Connected to the main display. Over the past 3 months, someone has systematically sabotaged every Aston Vale V prototype. They disabled security cameras in the restricted zone. They replaced factory-certified components with cheap, substandard aftermarket parts. They created conditions guaranteed to produce catastrophic failures after customer delivery. First photograph appeared, close-up of a cracked relay housing, water droplets clinging like evidence. These images were taken 3 days ago by Elliot Carter, a former senior mechanical engineer who was terminated for repairing one of these vehicles when it failed in heavy rain. Mr. Carter, please explain your findings. Elliot stepped forward. Voice steady despite the room full of million-pound decisions. All 3 prototypes have compromised electrical systems. Relay housings manufactured from substandard material that cracks under thermal cycling. Junction boxes improperly sealed. Wiring insulation deliberately nicked in multiple locations. Any one of these vehicles could suffer total electrical failure in wet conditions, loss of power steering, loss of braking assist, loss of lights. At motorway speeds, that is a death sentence. Patricia Chung, independent board member, leaned forward. How can you be certain this is sabotage and not simply poor design or quality control? Because I have reviewed the original factory specifications. The certified parts are rated for extreme environmental conditions. What I found in the vehicles would barely pass inspection on a golf buggy. Someone swapped them out. Someone with full access to the restricted area. Clive rose smoothly. This is absurd. Mr. Carter was fired for gross violation of safety protocols. He breached a restricted zone. Now he is attempting to discredit the company out of personal spite. This is revenge, not evidence. Then explain the cameras, Clive. Vivienne advanced to the next slide, internal authorization log. You personally authorized an emergency shutdown of all CCTV systems in the prototype testing area for 3 weeks. No work order. No change request. No oversight documentation. Standard upgrade procedure, Clive said. Security enhancement. Vivienne brought up another document. I have reviewed the ETL logs. No scheduled camera maintenance. No replacement hardware ordered. No technicians assigned. You executed an executive override shutdown on the exact day the first component failure was logged. Gerald frowned. Mr. Harrington. Did you authorize the camera shutdown? Yes, for legitimate security reasons. There had been reports of unauthorized personnel in the area. By turning off the cameras? Patricia asked. Clive's jaw tightened fractionally. Temporary measure. Where is the work order? Vivienne asked. Where is the invoice? The installation report? The sign-off sheet? There is nothing. No record of any upgrade. You disabled the cameras so sabotage could occur without being recorded. Clive opened his mouth. Vivienne didn't let him. She turned to Ronnie. Mr. Blake. You were on duty the evening before the first prototype failure. Please tell the board what you witnessed. Ronnie stepped forward. Hands shaking slightly. I saw an individual in the restricted area at approximately 2:15. They had a tool bag and were working under one of the prototypes. I assumed they had authorization. The cameras were offline. Did you report this? Yes, sir. I filed an incident report with Mr. Harrington the following morning. And what did Mr. Harrington tell you? He said the individual was an authorized technician working on a confidential project. Instructed me not to mention it to anyone. Said it was sensitive corporate information. Do you have a copy of that report? I did. It was removed from the system 2 days later. Mr. Harrington informed me it had been filed in error. The room erupted in low voices. Gerald pounded the table once. Order. He turned to Vivienne. Ms. Ashford. Do you have additional evidence? Yes. She pulled up financial records, highlighted wire transfers. Over the past 6 months, Mr. Harrington has received irregular payments from NextGen Automotive, our largest direct competitor. Amounts ranging from £50,000 to £75,000, buried under consulting fees. NextGen stands to gain the most if the Aston Vale V launch fails catastrophically. Clive slammed his palm on the table. That is privileged consulting work. Completely legal. You advised our direct competitor, Vivienne said. The same competitor whose sales representatives have been quietly warning dealerships that the V suffers from persistent electrical faults. You did not merely sabotage our vehicles, Clive. You sold the company out. Patricia Chung looked at Clive with open disgust. Gerald Thornton closed his leather portfolio. Folded his hands. Mr. Harrington. I think you should leave the room. This is a witch hunt, Clive said. You have no concrete proof. I have photographs. Maintenance logs. Financial records. Eyewitness testimony. And this. Vivienne placed the small audio recorder on the table. This device was installed in prototype 7V 2 weeks ago. It recorded the failure the night Mr. Carter was terminated. She pressed play. Static. Rain hammering metal. Footsteps. Metal scraping. A muffled voice unmistakable. I've had this analyzed by a forensic audio specialist, Vivienne said. The voice is yours, Clive. You were there. You sabotaged that vehicle. When Mr. Carter repaired it and exposed your plan, you fired him to cover your tracks. Gerald's voice was ice. Security. Please escort Mr. Harrington from the building. He is suspended pending full criminal and internal investigation. Monday morning Clive Harrington was gone. Not just fired, but under active investigation by company legal and external authorities. They uncovered years of rot bid rigging, falsified safety certifications, kickbacks to suppliers delivering substandard parts. The V sabotage was merely the tip of a very long, very ugly iceberg. Vivienne addressed the entire workforce in the main production hall that afternoon. Hundreds of overalls and high-vis jackets. Faces tired but attentive. We failed, she said. Not because our products are inherently flawed, but because our culture allowed one individual to place personal gain above safety. That ends today. Effective immediately. Anonymous safety reporting hotline. Any concern, No fear of retaliation. Whistleblower Protection Fund. Independent Safety Review Board with external oversight. And one more thing. She paused. Looked out across the sea of faces. We are establishing the Natalie Carter Memorial Scholarship. Named for a woman who should still be here. It will fully fund engineering and safety-related degrees for children of Aston Vale employees. Elliot stood at the back of the hall. Natalie's name spoken aloud in the place that had once tried to erase him. It wasn't justice would have brought her back. But it was memory given weight. Acknowledgement. A small, permanent marker that she had mattered. After the address, Vivienne found him in the corridor. The board has reinstated you. Full back pay. Full benefits restored. New position, senior safety engineer. Report directly to me. If you want it. Elliot looked at her for a long moment. I want it. Good. We have a lot of work to do. 3 weeks later, Tuesday morning, Vivienne Ashford walked into Matilda Carter's primary school hall for career day. Last-minute addition to the schedule. 27 year 3 children sat cross-legged on the floor. Matilda in the front row, beaming so wide her cheeks hurt. Vivienne spoke simply. About building cars. Solving problems. Why doing the right thing matters even when it's frightening or difficult or costs you something. After the talk, she knelt beside Matilda. Your dad is a good man. I know, Matilda said proudly. He fixes things even when nobody's watching. That's the best kind of person. That evening Elliot picked Matilda up from the school gates. They walked home together, her small hand in his larger one. Rent paid. Inhaler refilled. School dinner account back in credit. They stopped at the local park. She ran to the swings. Laughter cut through the cooling air like bells. Elliot stood and watched, hands in pockets, heart strangely full. Rain returned as they walked the last stretch home. Light this time. Soft. Almost gentle. Washing the city clean. For the first time in years, the rain felt like a beginning. Not an ending.